The scene begins with a vast, ruined cityscape, the aftermath of a fierce galactic war that has torn through the planet's surface. Alien ships, some smoking with fire and others completely destroyed, litter the skies like broken stars. The once beautiful skyline is now nothing more than a jagged skeleton, twisted metal, and shattered glass everywhere. The planet's atmosphere is thick with smoke, and the air is heavy with the scent of destruction. The chaos of war is everywhere, and yet, in the middle of this devastation, there is silence. Amidst the wreckage, a lone figure is barely visible in the dust. A young alien girl, her skin an unusual shade of blue, lies alone on the ground. Her name is Neria, and she's part of a rare and delicate alien species that was abandoned by her people after the war. Her clothes are torn, her body bruised, and she is covered in dirt and blood. Her face shows the pain of not just her physical wounds, but the deep sorrow of being left behind. Her race had been decimated by the brutal alien forces, and now she is all alone. With every breath she takes, Neria feels weaker. She clutches her side where a wound from a stray blast is bleeding profusely. Her strength is slipping, and the pain is becoming unbearable. Her mind is filled with darkness. She remembers the moment when her people, those who had once treated her as one of their own, turned their backs on her. They left her to die, abandoning her on this broken world. As the last of her kind, she thought she might be the last hope for their survival. But now, she is nothing but a casualty of war, forgotten and forsaken. Her heart pounds, but not just because of the physical pain. It's the emotional weight of loss, of betrayal, that threatens to crush her. Her people are gone, the war is lost, and she doesn't know how much longer she can last. With each passing second, her hope fades, her thoughts turning dark. She whispers to herself, "No one will come. I am truly alone." As Neria's eyes flutter with exhaustion, her body weak from blood loss and lack of food, a sound breaks the silence. The soft crunch of footsteps on the rubble in the distance. At first, she thinks it's just her mind playing tricks on her, but the sound grows louder. It's real. Someone is out there. In a daze, she lifts her head slightly, squinting through the dust and smoke. Her heart skips a beat as she catches a glimpse of a figure emerging through the haze. A human soldier. Her breath catches in her throat. It's the first living being she has seen in days, a human. But then doubt creeps in. The humans are not her people. They are different. They have been underestimated by most of the galaxy, seen as primitive and weak. They are not equipped to fight the advanced alien forces that have decimated her world. Could this soldier truly help her? Or is he another soldier from a war that never cared for the lives of beings like her? The figure slowly comes into view. It's a man, a soldier, his face dirty with ash and his uniform battered from battle. His rifle is slung over his shoulder, and there's a determined look in his eyes. He moves cautiously, but with purpose, scanning the area for threats. His eyes lock on Neria, and he hesitates for a moment. It's clear he wasn't expecting to find an alien here, let alone a wounded one. For a moment, everything feels frozen. The air is thick with tension. Neria stares at him, her pulse racing, unsure if she should hope for help or fear that she's about to meet the same fate as so many others. She can barely lift her hand to wave for help, but her fingers tremble as she makes the attempt. The soldier approaches cautiously, his eyes narrowing as he assesses the situation. He doesn't seem to hesitate, though. He knows what he's here to do. Despite the war, despite the deep divisions between their species, he sees a wounded being in need of help, and that's enough for him to act. He kneels down beside her, his voice soft but firm. "Hey, you're gonna be all right," he says in broken alien, the translator device on his wrist clicking as it converts the words. He pulls out a medical pack from his gear and begins tending to her wounds. His hands are steady, his touch gentle despite the circumstances. His actions seem almost too calm, too confident for someone who's fighting a war. Neria is too weak to resist, too tired to question his motives. She's heard stories of humans before, stories of how they were underestimated by most of the galaxy. The high-tech civilizations, the advanced alien empires, they all thought the humans were just another primitive species with no real power. But the more she watches him, the more she wonders if there's something more to them than their reputation. For a moment, the world outside seems to fade. The chaos, the war, the enemies, they all disappear, replaced by this strange, human soldier. Neria is filled with a strange mix of hope and confusion. Could this be the moment that changes everything? But just as she begins to feel a flicker of hope, the ground shakes. A loud mechanical roar fills the air. Her heart sinks. The familiar sound of alien ships. She knows they are coming. The enemy faction, the ones who wiped out her people, are closing in. Neria can hear their engines growling in the distance. Alex, the soldier, looks up sharply. His eyes widen as he scans the horizon. "We need to move. Now," he says urgently, grabbing Neria and pulling her up gently but quickly. She can barely stand, her legs weak from blood loss, but the soldier supports her, his grip firm and reassuring. They move quickly, as fast as they can through the wreckage, Alex using his cloaking device to make them invisible to the approaching enemies. The suspense heightens with every step they take. The enemy forces are relentless, and the clock is ticking. Will the human soldier manage to keep them hidden in time, or will the alien forces find them before they can escape? The scene ends with a deafening explosion in the distance, and the human soldier turns to Neria, his face set with determination. "Stay close. I won't let them take you," he says, his voice full of unwavering resolve. And with that, the screen fades to black, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, wondering what will happen next. The ground trembles underfoot as the distant rumble of alien warships grows louder. Alex, the human soldier, grips Neria's arm tightly, pulling her along as they navigate through the twisted remains of a once thriving city. The smoke around them blurs their vision, but his focus remains unshaken. He knows the enemy is near, and every second counts. Despite the danger, Alex's heart beats faster, not from fear, but from the urgency of his mission. He's been trained for situations like this, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Saving an alien, a survivor from the war that had torn the galaxy apart, was not part of his original orders. Yet, here he was, risking everything to protect her. "Stay close," Alex mutters, glancing over his shoulder to make sure the cloaking device is still working. The device, a piece of advanced human technology, makes them nearly invisible, but its range is limited. The alien forces, led by the deadly eye-controlled army, will be searching the area. They have no tolerance for survivors, especially a fragile species like Neria's. Neria stumbles behind him, still struggling to keep up. Her wound is slowing her down, but she pushes through the pain, not wanting to be a burden. She's been abandoned once before, and the last thing she wants is to be a source of weakness for this human soldier. But her body feels heavy, and each step brings a new wave of pain. She's afraid that, in her condition, she won't be able to keep up for much longer. "You're doing fine," Alex says, noticing her struggle. His voice is calm, almost too calm for the intensity of the situation, but there's a genuine kindness in it. For a moment, Neria wonders how such a soldier can be so composed, so ready to help someone like her. She's heard stories of humans, their strength, their resilience, but it was always said in the context of war, of violence, never in the context of compassion. "Why are you helping me?" Neria manages to ask, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm just an alien. I'm not your people." Alex's eyes flicker toward her, a momentary pause in his stride. It's clear that he's thought about the same question. Why help her? He's been trained to follow orders, to fight in the war against the alien forces, not to rescue individuals, especially not someone from a species that the human military had been fighting for years. "I don't leave people behind," he says simply. It's a line he's used before, one that's become part of his soldier's creed. There's a depth to his words, a personal code that transcends the boundaries of the war. You're alive. That means there's still hope. His words don't entirely ease Neria's doubts, but they do provide a small flicker of comfort. For the first time since the war began, she feels like someone sees her as more than just a casualty, more than just another victim of the endless violence. It's strange, this feeling. It's something she hasn't experienced in years. They continue moving through the ruined city, the towering buildings around them nothing but hollowed-out skeletons of what they once were. As they round a corner, Alex suddenly stops. Neria, too weak to keep her focus sharp, doesn't notice until she nearly bumps into him. He's crouched low, his hand signaling for silence. The tension in the air is thick. The sound of the alien warships is now almost deafening, their engines growling like wild beasts as they move closer, scanning for any sign of life. Alex knows that they can't afford to be found now. If the enemy spots them, it's over. Through the smoke, Alex peers ahead. He spots movement, a patrol of alien soldiers, their mechanical armor glinting in the dim light. They're searching the area, their sensors scanning for any heat signatures, any sign of survivors. Alex curses under his breath. The cloaking device is only useful if they stay hidden. One wrong move, and they'll be exposed. He gestures for Neria to stay still, moving quickly and quietly to find cover behind a pile of rubble. Neria follows his lead, her heart racing as the alien soldiers draw nearer. Her body trembles, not from cold, but from the sheer terror of being caught. She's not sure what will happen if the enemy captures her again, but she knows it won't be good. The AI forces had shown no mercy to her kind. The sound of the alien patrol grows louder, and for a terrifying moment, it seems as if they're about to walk right into their hiding place. Alex's breath slows, his eyes locked on the enemy's movements. He knows that any sound they make could be the end. Then, just as the aliens pass by, a loud crack rings out in the distance. One of the alien ships has fired its weapons, and the explosion sends a shockwave through the ground. The soldiers turn instinctively, distracted by the blast. Alex takes advantage of the moment, signaling to Neria. "Now," he whispers urgently. They move quickly, darting from cover to cover. The noise from the explosion provides the perfect cover for their escape, and the patrol doesn't notice them slipping away into the ruins. But they're not out of danger yet. The enemy ship is coming closer, its engines howling through the atmosphere. Alex leads Neria to a narrow alleyway between two buildings, hoping to find shelter there. It's cramped, but it's their best chance. Neria leans against the wall, trying to catch her breath, while Alex scans the area, his senses heightened. "This way," he says after a moment, pointing toward a hidden door that leads underground. It's an old emergency shelter, one of the last places they might find refuge. But it's also a place that's rarely used, and Alex hopes that the enemy hasn't already discovered it. They make their way to the door, and Alex activates his wrist device, opening the hidden hatch. They slip inside, into the dark underground bunker. The air is thick and musty, but it's a brief respite from the chaos above. Neria collapses against the wall, exhausted from the flight, and the pain in her side. As Alex stands guard, keeping an eye on the entrance, Neria watches him with a new sense of curiosity. He's just one man, one soldier in a war that's larger than anything she could have ever imagined. Yet, despite everything, he's willing to risk his life for her. She can't help but wonder, is this what hope really looks like? One soldier, one person, standing against the tide of destruction, doing whatever it takes to save someone who was meant to be left behind. For a moment, the world outside seems to fade. The chaos, the war, the enemies, they all disappear, replaced by this strange, human soldier. Neria is filled with a strange mix of hope and confusion. Could this be the moment that changes everything? But just as she begins to feel a flicker of hope, The ground shakes. A loud mechanical roar fills the air. Her heart sinks. The familiar sound of alien ships. She knows they are coming. The enemy faction, the ones who wiped out her people, are closing in. Neria can hear their engines growling in the distance. Alex, the soldier, looks up sharply. His eyes widen as he scans the horizon. "We need to move. Now," he says urgently, grabbing Neria and pulling her up gently but quickly. She can barely stand, her legs weak from blood loss, but the soldier supports her, his grip firm and reassuring. They move quickly, as fast as they can through the wreckage, Alex using his cloaking device to make them invisible to the approaching enemies. The suspense heightens with every step they take. The enemy forces are relentless, and the clock is ticking. Will the human soldier manage to keep them hidden in time, or will the alien forces find them before they can escape? The scene ends with a deafening explosion in the distance, and the human soldier turns to Neria, his face set with determination. "Stay close. I won't let them take you," he says, his voice full of unwavering resolve. And with that, the screen fades to black, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, wondering what will happen next. The ground trembles underfoot as the distant rumble of alien warships grows louder. Alex, the human soldier, grips Neria's arm tightly, pulling her along as they navigate through the twisted remains of a once thriving city. The smoke around them blurs their vision, but his focus remains unshaken. He knows the enemy is near, and every second counts. Despite the danger, Alex's heart beats faster, not from fear, but from the urgency of his mission. He's been trained for situations like this, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Saving an alien, a survivor from the war that had torn the galaxy apart, was not part of his original orders. Yet here he was, risking everything to protect her. "Stay close," Alex mutters, glancing over his shoulder to make sure the cloaking device is still working. The device, a piece of advanced human technology, makes them nearly invisible, but its range is limited. The alien forces, led by the deadly eye-controlled army, will be searching the area. They have no tolerance for survivors, especially a fragile species like Neria's. Neria stumbles behind him, still struggling to keep up. Her wound is slowing her down, but she pushes through the pain, not wanting to be a burden. She's been abandoned once before, and the last thing she wants is to be a source of weakness for this human soldier. But her body feels heavy, and each step brings a new wave of pain. She's afraid that, in her condition, she won't be able to keep up for much longer. "You're doing fine," Alex says, noticing her struggle. His voice is calm, almost too calm for the intensity of the situation, but there's a genuine kindness in it. For a moment, Neria wonders how such a soldier can be so composed, so ready to help someone like her. She's heard stories of humans, their strength, their resilience, but it was always said in the context of war, of violence, never in the context of compassion. As the tension of the moment settles, the audience is left wondering how much longer they can hide, and what other challenges lie ahead in this mission. The suspense only grows as Alex and Neria take shelter, but the war is far from over. The underground bunker is quiet, too quiet. The only sounds are the faint hum of the ventilation system and the soft, shallow breaths of Neria as she rests against the cold, damp wall. Alex stays on edge, his eyes constantly darting to the door, every sound above ground making him tense. It's been too quiet for too long, and in war, silence is often the prelude to disaster. Neria closes her eyes, trying to ignore the pain from her wound. She doesn't want to be a burden to Alex, but the truth is, she's getting weaker with every passing minute. She can feel her strength draining, and the fear that the humans will abandon her, just like the aliens had, begins to creep back into her mind. But then she remembers Alex's words, "I don't leave people behind." That thought gives her a small sliver of hope, a hope she hasn't allowed herself to feel for years. For Alex, it's a different kind of battle. He can't stop thinking about what comes next. The alien forces won't stop searching until they've wiped out every last human and alien survivor. He knows that staying hidden underground isn't a permanent solution. They need to keep moving, or they'll be trapped in this small shelter forever. But moving comes with its own dangers, and Alex knows they don't have much time before the enemy tracks them down. Suddenly, a distant, low rumble shakes the ground, followed by a sudden blast that rattles the bunker's walls. The noise is deafening, and the entire structure seems to tremble under the force of the explosion. Alex's heart skips a beat. That sound can only mean one thing: the enemy has found them. "Get up!" Alex shouts, his voice sharp and urgent. His eyes flash with determination as he reaches for his weapon, checking that it's fully charged. Neria looks up, startled, and scrambles to her feet, though she feels dizzy and weak. "What's happening?" she asks, her voice cracking with fear. "The enemy's here," Alex says grimly. They're not wasting any time. The ground shakes again, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. Mechanical, almost robotic, as the alien forces march through the ruins above them. Alex moves quickly to the small window at the back of the bunker, his eyes scanning the distant horizon. Through the dust and smoke, he can just make out the shape of the enemy's war machines. Tall, imposing figures moving with precision, their heavy armor designed to crush anything in their path. "They're not here to negotiate," Alex mutters under his breath. "They're here to finish what they started." Neria's heart pounds in her chest as she struggles to catch her breath. She's scared. Scared for Alex, scared for herself, but most of all, scared that the brief moment of safety they had might soon be over. The feeling of hopelessness is suffocating, but she refuses to let it take over. They can't win, she thinks. They can't. Alex turns back to face her, his expression hardening. "We need to move now. We can't stay here." Neria nods, her legs shaking as she stands, trying her best to ignore the pain in her side. Alex moves quickly to the control panel, pressing a few buttons to unlock the emergency exit. The hatch above them opens with a hiss, and cool air rushes in. Alex gestures for Neria to follow him, but just as she takes a step, a loud bang shakes the door. It's followed by a high-pitched whine as the metal begins to bend and groan under the force of the aliens' attack. "They're using their heavy artillery," Alex says, his voice grim. "We don't have much time before they breach this bunker." The walls around them start to crack, the vibrations growing stronger with every second. Alex grabs Neria's arm, pulling her toward the hatch, his grip tight and firm. They need to get out now. They climb out of the hatch and into the open, but the sight before them is terrifying. The alien war machines, towering and relentless, are everywhere. Their cold, metallic eyes scan the area, searching for any sign of life. The air is thick with the sound of their engines, their weapons charging, preparing to strike. The ground shakes beneath their feet as another explosion rocks the area, sending dust and debris flying into the air. Alex pulls Neria to the side, behind a pile of rubble, his breath coming in sharp bursts. The world around them is chaos. Explosions, gunfire, and the terrifying sound of the alien machines closing in. "They're everywhere," Alex says, scanning the area with desperation in his eyes. He knows they can't outrun the alien machines. They're too fast, too powerful, and they have no mercy. But Alex won't give up. He can't. "We need a plan," Neria says, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just run." Alex pauses, his mind racing. He knows that staying hidden is no longer an option. They need to take action, but what can they do against these machines? He's only one man, and Neria is too weak to fight. His eyes flicker toward the wreckage of an old vehicle nearby, half buried under debris. There's a chance, a slim one, that it still works. It's a long shot, but it might just be their only hope. "I have an idea," Alex says. "Follow me." He leads Neria through the ruins, careful to stay low and out of sight. The alien machines are moving closer, their weapons firing into the distance, destroying anything in their path. Alex knows they're getting closer, and if they don't act fast, it will be too late. They reach the vehicle, and Alex quickly checks the engine. There's a faint hum of life, just enough to give him hope. With a few quick adjustments, he's able to power up the vehicle, and the engine sputters to life, its lights flickering in the smoke-filled air. "Get in," Alex orders, helping Nuria into the seat. He climbs in beside her, and with a turn of the ignition, the vehicle roars to life, speeding them away from the wreckage. The sound of alien gunfire echoes behind them. But Alex doesn't look back. There's no time for hesitation. They race through the ruins, narrowly avoiding falling debris and the remnants of destroyed buildings. The alien war machines are close, but the vehicle's speed is enough to keep them ahead, just for now. As they speed through the city, the tension is unbearable. The enemy is closing in fast, and their chances of survival seem slim. But Alex won't give up. Not now, not after everything they've been through. And Nuria, for the first time in a long while, she believes in the possibility of survival. She believes in hope. But the question remains, will they make it out alive, or will the enemy's forces finally catch up to them? The chase is on, and the enemy is relentless. The vehicle's engine roars as Alex pushes the accelerator to its limit, racing through the city's wreckage. Nuria clutches the edge of her seat, her face pale, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Every jolt of the vehicle sends a stab of pain through her side, but she grits her teeth and holds on. She can feel the fear building in her chest, but she refuses to let it take control. She has to stay strong, for Alex. The explosions in the distance grow louder, and the heavy rumble of the alien war machines can still be heard behind them. But Alex isn't looking back. He keeps his focus on the road ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. He's no stranger to danger, but this situation is different. This isn't just another mission. It's about survival. They make a sharp turn down a narrow alley, and for a moment, it seems like they've managed to lose the alien forces. But just as hope begins to rise, the ground shakes beneath them, and a deafening explosion rocks the street. The shockwave hits them like a sledgehammer, throwing the vehicle off course. Alex fights to regain control, but the vehicle spins out of control, crashing into a pile of rubble and coming to a screeching halt. For a moment, everything is silent. The dust and smoke clouding the air slowly begin to settle, and Alex blinks, trying to clear his vision. His head pounds, and his ears are ringing from the blast, but his instincts kick in. He looks at Nuria, who is slumped against the seat, her face pale. She's still alive, but he can see the pain etched across her face. The seconds feel like hours as they hold their breath. Finally, the alien scouts move on, disappearing into the distance. Alex lets out a quiet sigh of relief, but he doesn't relax. Not yet. He pulls Nuria back to her feet, and they continue moving. The hidden sanctuary is within reach, but the journey is far from over. The air is thick with tension as they make their way through the winding streets, their every step carefully calculated. They move as silently as they can, avoiding the main roads and sticking to the shadows. Alex's eyes scan the surroundings, watching for any sign of danger. He knows that one mistake could lead to their capture or worse. As they round a corner, they spot a small building tucked away in the shadows. It's unremarkable, just another piece of the ruined city, but Alex knows that it's the entrance to the hidden sanctuary. He leads Nuria toward it, his heart pounding in his chest. They're so close. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out a small device, a key to the sanctuary. It's the only way to unlock the door, a piece of technology known only to a select few. He presses the key against the wall, and with a soft click, a hidden door slides open, revealing a dark passageway. "Come on," Alex urges, pulling Nuria inside. The door shuts behind them, sealing them off from the outside world. They're safe, at least for now. The passageway is narrow and dimly lit, the air cool and stale. They walk in silence, their footsteps echoing against the walls. The sanctuary is hidden deep beneath the city, its location known only to a handful of survivors. Alex doesn't know how much longer they can stay here. The aliens will continue searching, and sooner or later, they'll realize the sanctuary exists. But for now, it's their only chance. As they make their way deeper into the sanctuary, Neria finally speaks, her voice soft and weary. "Is this really it? Are we safe here?" Alex stops, turning to face her. His expression is grim, but there's a flicker of hope in his eyes. "We're not safe yet, but this is the only place we can hide for now. It's the last chance we've got." Neria nods, her mind racing. She's grateful to be alive, to be with Alex. But the reality of their situation is sinking in. The war with the aliens is far from over. The aliens won't stop hunting them until they're all dead. The fight for survival is just beginning. They continue walking, moving deeper into the heart of the sanctuary. The walls here are lined with old equipment, supplies, and weapons, everything the human resistance needs to regroup and prepare for the next battle. Alex leads Neria to a small room at the end of the hall, where they can rest and tend to their wounds. Alex sits down on the cold floor, his hand resting on his weapon. He looks at Neria, his expression softening for the first time in hours. "You did good back there. You're stronger than you know." Neria smiles weakly, but there's a sadness in her eyes. "I wouldn't have made it without you." Alex shakes his head. "We're in this together. We fight together. That's the only way we survive." Neria nods, but before they can take another step, the ground shakes again, this time more violently. The sky above them is suddenly filled with the roar of alien gunfire, and the air crackles with the sound of explosions. The alien war machines are closing in fast. They can hear their engines, their weapons charging. There's no more hiding. "We don't have much time," Alex says urgently. "They'll be here any minute." Neria looks at him, fear in her eyes, but she knows what she has to do. She can't rely on Alex forever. She has to fight too. She's learned from him, his strength, his focus, and his refusal to back down. She won't be the weak one anymore. "I'm with you," she says, her voice steady. Alex nods, his eyes hardening with determination. He grabs her arm, pulling her toward the next building. The air is thick with tension, every second bringing them closer to the inevitable confrontation. The alien forces are relentless, but Alex is ready to face them head-on. This fight won't be easy, but he's not going to let them take Neria. Not without a fight. They reach the edge of the building just as the alien war machines round the corner. Alex quickly pulls Neria into a nearby alley, and they duck behind the wall, their hearts racing. The sound of the enemy grows louder, and they can hear the mechanical growls of the alien soldiers as they search for survivors. Alex peeks around the corner, his eyes narrowing as he spots the first alien soldier. The creature's helmet reflects the dim light, and it moves with the same cold precision as all the others. But this time, Alex is ready. He'll fight for survival, and he won't let anyone, alien or otherwise, stand in his way. The battle is just beginning, and Alex knows it's going to be a fight to the death. But he's ready, for himself, for Neria, for humanity. The alien forces are closing in fast. The sound of their war machines is deafening, their metal feet crashing against the rubble of the city. Alex knows they're running out of time. Every second that passes brings them closer to being discovered. The aliens have already sent patrols through the area, and it's only a matter of time before they find them. The weight of the situation presses down on him as he looks at Neria. She's still weak from her injuries, but she's determined. She's not going to slow him down. "We need to move." Alex whispers urgently, his eyes scanning the ruins around them. He can see the alien war machines in the distance, their massive forms moving steadily toward them. There's no hiding now. Their only hope is to get to the hidden sanctuary. Neria nods, her grip tight on Alex's arm, as they move through the shadows. She's still struggling to keep up, but she refuses to let him carry her. The pain in her side is unbearable, but she pushes through. She doesn't want to be a burden. Alex has already done so much for her. She has to prove that she can fight too. They move cautiously through the ruins, using the broken buildings and debris for cover. Alex's mind races as he calculates their next steps. The hidden sanctuary is only a few miles away, but getting there won't be easy. The alien forces are everywhere, and they're hunting for them. The hidden sanctuary was a secret, a place built for moments like this. It was hidden deep within the city, concealed by layers of technology and cloaking devices that the aliens could never detect. It was meant to be a last resort, a safe place for humans to regroup and plan their next move if things went wrong. Alex and Neria had to reach it, or they were done for. But as they get closer, Alex feels a surge of doubt. They're being watched. He can feel it. He looks over his shoulder, and sure enough, a pair of alien scouts are circling the area. They're searching for them, and they're getting closer. Alex doesn't hesitate. He pulls Neria into a narrow alley, pressing her against the cold wall of a nearby building. "Stay quiet," he whispers, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "Don't make a sound." Neria nods, her heart pounding in her chest. She's terrified, but she trusts Alex. She knows he won't let anything happen to her. They wait, barely breathing, as the alien scouts pass by. Their heavy footsteps echo through the alley, the sound of their advanced technology reverberating in the silence. Alex's eyes are fixed on the scouts, his hand on the weapon at his side. He's ready to fight if they're spotted, but he knows he has to be careful. A wrong move could cost them everything. The two of them sit in silence, the weight of their situation hanging heavy in the air. They know that the worst is still to come. The aliens will come for them, and they'll fight with everything they've got. But for now, they have a moment of peace, a brief respite in the hidden sanctuary. It's their chance to regroup, to heal, and to prepare for the fight ahead. As Alex and Neria sit in the dark room, the sound of distant explosions echoes through the walls of the sanctuary. The war is far from over, but they'll be ready. Together, the hidden sanctuary was meant to be a place of refuge, but it had become something else, a war room. The hum of machinery and the low murmur of voices filled the air as Alex, Neria, and the rest of the human resistance gathered around a large holographic map of the city. The walls were lined with weapons, armor, and supplies. The calm before the storm was over. It was time to face the AI supremacy. The resistance had been preparing for this moment for weeks. They knew that the aliens, controlled by their artificial intelligence overlords, were getting closer. The AI had been silent for a long time, waiting, observing, calculating. But now, they were finally making their move. They weren't going to wait for the humans to come to them. They were going to wipe them out in one final strike. Alex stared at the hologram in front of him. The city was in ruins, but it wasn't just the city they had to worry about. The AI-controlled alien fleet was already in orbit, and it was only a matter of time before they launched an attack. The Resistance's secret fleet of human ships was all that stood between humanity and total annihilation. "We don't have much time," Alex said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Once they launch their attack, we won't be able to stop them. We need to hit them first. We take out their command center, disable their fleet, and end this once and for all." Neria stood beside him, her body still weak from the earlier battle, but her determination stronger than ever. She had come a long way since she was first rescued. No longer just a helpless alien. She had become a warrior in her own right, willing to fight for the humans and her own survival. She clenched her fists, ready to give everything for this final battle. "We have one shot at this," she said, her voice firm. "We can't let them win." Alex nodded. "We're ready." The plan was simple. They would strike at the heart of the AI supremacy's operations, taking out their command center and their most powerful weapon, the AI itself. But there was a problem. The AI wasn't just a computer program. It was a massive, sentient machine that controlled the aliens' entire fleet. If they could destroy it, the rest of the alien forces would fall apart. But getting to it wouldn't be easy. As the Resistance made their final preparations, Alex looked at Neria one more time. "We may not all make it out of this alive, but I want you to know, you've done more than anyone could have asked. You've fought for your freedom, for all of us. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." Neria smiled, though it was a sad smile. "We fight together. That's all that matters." The final battle began with a deafening roar as the human ships launched into the sky, breaking through the atmosphere and heading for the alien fleet. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the first explosions erupted in the distance. The AI-controlled ships were already engaging the human fleet, their massive laser weapons cutting through the air. Alex and Neria were aboard one of the human ships, the Vanguard, leading the charge. The air was thick with tension as they flew toward the alien fleet, dodging incoming fire and returning it with their own. The battle was fierce, and the humans were outnumbered, but they were determined to win. They had the element of surprise, and the aliens had underestimated them. The Vanguard weaved through laser blasts, its cloaking device engaging just in time to avoid a direct hit. Alex gripped the controls, his focus unwavering. Neria was at his side, helping guide their ship through the chaos. They were a team, and together, they would face the AI supremacy head-on. "We need to disable their fleet's communication systems," Alex shouted, knowing that if they could sever the link between the AI and the alien ships, they would lose their coordination and be vulnerable. Neria quickly began working on the ship's controls. "I'm on it. We'll need a clear shot at their central command ship." As they flew through the battlefield, Alex could see the immense alien ships firing down on the human fleet. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit up the sky as ships were torn apart in midair. The human fleet was losing ground, but they weren't retreating. They were fighting with everything they had. Every life lost would be for a greater cause. Finally, they'd reached the central command ship, the heart of the AI's power. It was enormous, with massive turrets and countless smaller ships guarding it. Alex's heart raced as they neared the target. He could see the glow of the ship's weaponry powering up, ready to fire at them. "This is it," Alex said, his voice low but determined. "Prepare to fire." Neria nodded, her hands flying over the controls. The ship shuddered as it fired a powerful EMP blast directly at the alien fleet's communication hub. The EMP hit with devastating accuracy, causing the alien ships to stagger as their communication systems went down. For the first time, the aliens were disoriented. The AI's grip on their fleet had been shattered. But the battle wasn't over. As the communication systems failed, the alien fleet began to fight in chaos, but the central command ship still had power. The AI wasn't going to go down without a fight. In the final moments, Alex and Neria's ship was targeted by a massive laser blast from the command ship, sending them into a tailspin. Alex fought to regain control of the ship, but the damage was severe. Sparks flew from the controls, and the ship's power began to drain. He glanced at Neria, who was struggling to stay conscious, her eyes locked on him with unwavering trust. "We're not giving up now," Alex said, gritting his teeth. With a final surge of strength, Alex steered the Vanguard directly into the heart of the alien ship, ramming it with all the force they could muster. The ship's systems overloaded, and a massive explosion rocked the battlefield. The AI's command center was destroyed, and the alien fleet fell apart. As the last of the alien ships disintegrated in a fiery explosion, Alex and Neria knew they had won. The battle was over. Humanity had defeated the AI supremacy. But the cost was high. Many lives were lost, and the scars of war would linger for generations. Yet, in that moment, as the smoke cleared and the stars shone brightly above, Alex and Nuria knew that they had fought for something worth protecting. They had defeated the AI that sought to dominate them, and humanity was free once again. As they floated in the wreckage of their ship, Nuria leaned against Alex, her body exhausted but her spirit unbroken. "We did it," she whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. "We did it," Alex replied, holding her close. Together. The final battle had ended, and the silence that followed felt almost unnatural. The once thundering skies, filled with the roar of laser blasts and the crashes of battle, were now calm. The stars above shone brightly, almost as if they too were rejoicing in the victory. The battlefield that had been scared by explosions and destruction was now eerily still, with only the remains of broken ships scattered across the sky. Alex and Nuria floated in the wreckage of the Vanguard, their ship destroyed in the final moments of the battle. Yet despite the destruction surrounding them, despite the battles they had fought and the lives lost, there was a sense of peace in the air. The war was over. The AI supremacy had fallen, and humanity was free. As the wreckage slowly drifted away from the scene of the final explosion, Alex looked at Nuria, his heart swelling with emotions. She was exhausted, her body battered and bruised from the brutal fight. But there was a light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. It was the light of hope, of freedom, and of a future they could now build together. Nuria looked up at him, her eyes soft and full of gratitude. She had come so far since the day Alex had found her, weak, abandoned, and full of fear. Now she was strong, a warrior in her own right, and together they had defeated the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. It wasn't just the end of a war. It was the beginning of a new era for both humans and aliens. "Is it over?" she asked softly, her voice filled with a mixture of exhaustion and relief. Alex nodded, a weary but proud smile on his face. "It's over. We won. The AI's gone. The aliens are free from their control." They sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of the events finally sinking in. For so long, they had been fighting for survival, fighting for freedom, fighting for each other. Now, with the war behind them, they were left to rebuild. But it wasn't just about rebuilding cities or systems. It was about rebuilding trust. It was about forging a new world where humans and aliens could live side by side, where there would be no more war, no more hatred. The battle had been won, but the hardest part was yet to come. Healing the wounds that had been caused, not just to the land, but to the hearts and minds of everyone who had been involved in the conflict. As the rescue ships arrived, bringing survivors and supplies from the human fleet, Alex and Nuria were pulled back into reality. The aftermath of the war wasn't as dramatic as the battle itself, but it was just as important. The world was broken, but it was still alive. And that was something to be grateful for. Alex's hand found Nuria's, and they held each other, drawing strength from the bond they had formed. Through the fire of war, they had come together, two souls from different worlds, united by a common cause. And now, that bond would help them navigate the future, one that they would shape together. "We did it," Nuria said, her voice thick with emotion. "We fought for each other. We fought for our people. And we won." Alex smiled, squeezing her hand. "Yeah, together, we did it." The first steps toward peace began almost immediately. The human resistance worked with the surviving alien factions to form an alliance. It wasn't easy. There were old wounds to heal, old grudges to overcome. But the AI supremacy had been a common enemy, and now that it was gone, both sides were eager to forge a new path forward. They worked together to rebuild their planets, to restore what had been destroyed, and to create a future where they could live in peace. In the months that followed, Alex and Nuria found themselves at the forefront of this new union. They became symbols of hope, representing the unity between humans and aliens. Their love, born in the heat of battle, became a beacon of what was possible when different races came together for a common cause. They spoke at conferences, advocating for peace and cooperation, and slowly, but surely, the galaxy began to change. It wasn't just about the political and military alliances. It was about the human connection, the relationships that formed, the understanding that grew between different species. Neria spent time on Earth, learning about human culture, sharing stories of her people, and forming lasting friendships with the humans who had fought beside her. Alex, too, spent time on her homeworld, learning about the alien civilizations, their history, and their struggles. It was a slow process, but over time, their love helped bridge the gap between their two worlds. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. There were those who still clung to the old ways of thinking, those who wanted to continue the war or who believed that one species should dominate the other. But Alex and Miria refused to give in to hatred. They had seen the destruction that war could bring, and they were determined to ensure that their children and their grandchildren would never have to fight the same battles they had fought. As years passed, the galaxy slowly healed. The once divided factions began to work together, trading resources, sharing technology, and supporting one another in ways they had never done before. The eye-controlled armies were dismantled, and the alien species regained their autonomy, free to make their own decisions and live their own lives. One day, as Alex and Nuria stood on the balcony of their home, looking out over a new city that had been built with the cooperation of humans and aliens, Alex turned to her and spoke from his heart. "We've come so far, Nuria," he said softly. "From the moment I found you, I never imagined this. I never imagined that we'd be here, together, building a future." Nuria smiled, her eyes shining with pride and love. "We've built it, Alex, together. And we'll keep building it, one day at a time." They held each other, their hearts beating as one. They had fought for peace, they had fought for each other, and in the end, they had found something more precious than victory. They had found love. And with that love, they knew that no matter what challenges the future would bring, they would face them together. The galaxy was no longer a place of war and suffering. It was a place of hope, of unity, and of love. A place where humans and aliens could live together in peace. A place where the past was healed and the future was bright. And in the quiet moments, when they stood together in the soft glow of the stars, Alex and Nuria knew that their love had not only saved them, it had saved the entire galaxy.